Your house is worth whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong. I'm Charlie. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, and thank you for coming.
Charlie Lambdin grew up in Sussex, is the founder of Best Agent and presenter of Moving Home with Charlie.
If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals. All estate agents are not the same.
So Charlie, what would be your advice for people interested in buying new builds right now?
Don't overpay. Do buy, but don't overpay. That's why I say disregard the guff. Read into the numbers and look, and it's buried. The bad news is buried in the small print, okay?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards.
They may or may not be telling the truth, but you should form your own view. Get out and view, get out and view, get out and view. You cannot be in a position to make offers and have the offers accepted if you're not viewing. So be out there viewing. Pay attention to the back of the class if you've not been watching my videos. I did one just a couple of days ago. Disregard the guff, guys. Good evening and welcome to a special unscheduled broadcast on Moving Home with Charlie. I'm Charlie Lambdin. It is Monday, the 21st of July, 2025. And this morning, Rightmove put out its usual monthly house price index with quite a attention-grabbing headline. Anyway, one moment for my slurp. And apologies for the less than perfect sound quality this evening. But let's get into this. Because there's a lot... I don't want anyone to overreact, and I don't want anyone to panic. Don't panic, Mr. Mannering. But I do want people to start to take this more seriously, especially sellers. Okay. So, good evening, everyone. Carlos, David Ledbury, Corn Close. Hi there. Changes coming. Ricky Heath. Good to see you all. Now, let's get into exactly what Rightmove published. So every month, Rightmove publishes its house price index, which is based, and it's really important everyone knows this because there's a lot of new people following, both on X and on YouTube. Welcome to everyone. The Rightmove house price index has nothing to do with actual transaction prices. So it has nothing to do with actual house prices. It's purely and only asking prices. And more importantly than that, it's only based on the asking prices of newly listed homes in the last 28 days or in a 28-day period. And it also excludes any price reductions that happened in that time. So it just takes the average of the brand newly listed asking prices of newly listed properties in the last 28 days, and that's it. And that is why the Rightmove official average house price isn't a house price, it's an asking price. And it's 100 grand more than the ONS's official average house price. Not that I put any more trust and faith in the ONS's figures than I do in Rightmove's, but it's an interesting comparison, isn't it? Rightmove's asking prices on average are showing, for newly listed stuff, are showing 100 grand higher than sold price averages. Let's just run through what it says. And I want to be clear. This is the biggest month-on-month drop in any July since they started recording these prices 20-something years ago. Okay? Including the 2008 downturn. But it is only the month-on-month drop in July. It's not the biggest monthly drop ever. But it is still significant. And I think that basically when you combine it with all of the other news about the economy continuing to get worse, and the ever-increasing number of properties for sale that aren't selling, and hearing from the frontline of a estate agency how the market is just not as productive as they'd like it to be, and people are scared to make offers, I think all of these things gradually adding up on top of everything else. And it's starting to make sellers nervous, and that's causing these lower prices. But also, they've got one overall average, but actually, if you break it down by property type, which we'll do in a minute, it's a bit more interesting. Let's get into it. So, published today, the largest monthly sample of residential property prices, and that's not true, actually. Best Agents is larger, and I can prove that in a moment. I've got Best Agents up as well. It's not the largest monthly sample. Best Agents is, but I'm going to let them get away with it for now, but not for much longer. I am going to challenge them on that in due course. So a large monthly price fall this July of 1.2%. Prices are now just 0.1% ahead of this time last year. And what it's saying is the average asking prices of newly listed homes in the last 28 days this year are only 0.1%. So that's about 300 quid higher than this time last year. So in other words, on an asking price basis, house asking prices are flat, are unchanged effectively from this time last year. No house price growth in the asking prices in the last year. And remember that asking prices, the movements here are a leading indicator. They do like to put as much positivity as they can there. So plus 5%, sales agreed. This is 5% more sales agreed than last year, but they don't go on to talk about fall throughs, and we don't know what the data is on that. These bullet points are worth going through. The average price of a property coming to the market for sale drops by 1.2%, which is £4,500 to £373,709. Now, that's a meaningless figure because it's the average of all property types, and they haven't all moved in the same amount. But that is still a good 100 grand higher than the ONS's average price. But that is an asking price. The number of available homes still at a decade high level. Summer sellers are pricing even more competitively. Even more competitively? They weren't pricing competitively to attract buyer interest. Even more competitively than when? I mean, it's overpriced. The market's overpriced. Everyone knows the market's overpriced. This is standard Rightmove guff. By the way, I know Colleen Babcock at Rightmove. I've met Colleen Babcock at Rightmove. And she is the one who puts the commentary together on this. Haven't spoken to her for a while. Would be good to. Realistic and competitive pricing is key to selling. They always say this. Improving buyer affordability. That is true. There is some underlying very encouraging news. All right. And that is that buyer affordability is gradually improving. And it's saying stimulating stronger buyer activity. Well, slightly, but not much. The number of potential future buyers contacting estate agents about homes for sale is 6% higher than last year. Okay. So those are initial inquiries. Those are basically, that's Rightmove measuring how many inquiries it sends to estate agents from its website. Average new seller asking price just 0.1% higher than a year ago. We've covered that. Lower mortgage rates. They are quite a lot lower than a year ago. And actually, you'd expect prices to be doing better than on the back of this. So with lower mortgage rates and average wage rises outstripping both house prices and inflation, overall buyer affordability continues to improve. So Rightmove's mortgage tracker shows that the average 2-year fixed mortgage rate is 4.53% compared with 5.34% this time last year. So that is what are we? That's 0.8% lower, which they're saying is £150 a month on a typical new mortgage. That is a significant improvement. And honestly, you would expect to see better activity on the back of that improvement compared to this time last year, but we're not seeing it. The markets are currently forecasting 2 more bank rate cuts this year, whatever, blah, blah. The markets always forecast more rate cuts than there are. Now, the other thing, which is also very important to point here, is at the halfway point of the year, Rightmove is reducing its price forecast, its house price forecast for 2025, from up 4% to up 2%. So it's halving its house price growth forecast for the year, as the high level of seller competition is limiting price growth, and they're saying they're sticking to 1.15 million transactions this year. Okay. Now, this is where it gets a bit more interesting because it breaks down different property types. And you'll be clearly in one of these 3 categories. Maybe you're selling in one category and buying in the other. These are interesting, but these don't take into account regional changes. Okay. So ignore the top line. That's just the national average, and I don't think that makes much difference. Okay. So last month prices dropped 0.3%, and then this month they dropped another 1.2%. That's the overall average asking price. It is quite a punchy drop from 378,000 down to 373,000. It's nearly £5,000. Now, but this is the more important part, and we'll break down exactly what these property types are. But first-time buyers, and I think this is actually the biggest eye-catching thing in this whole report, is genuinely surprising to me. Because the first-time buyers market is traditionally, and I think still, the strongest sector of the housing market. And yet, prices of first-time buyer homes are down on this time a year ago. Only 0.2% down. This is just asking prices, but they are down on a year ago. First-time buyer asking prices are down year on year. That is a surprise to me. And again, it is a leading indicator of price weakness in the market. Now, first-time buyers' homes are basically 2-bedroom flats or houses and smaller. So 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom, or studios. That's all the property types that they include in first-time buyers. Second steppers, the monthly change is down 0.5%, right? So it's about £2,000 that's showing there in the asking price. Year on year, they're saying it's still up 0.8%. And then top of the ladder has had the top of the ladder prices are much more noisy. They're much more spiky up and down. And there we are. So monthly change down 1.6%, which is a £11,000 drop in top of the ladder homes. Top of the ladder homes are detached 4 beds and all 5-bed houses or flats, detached or not, and upwards. Those are top of the ladder prices. Okay, but that's a £11,000 drop. And Rightmove measures 145,000 asking prices this month nationally. That's including Northern Ireland, I think, right? These properties were put on sale by estate agents from the 8th of June to the 12th of July. So that's actually about 5 weeks, and advertised on Rightmove. So that's the data sample that we get. But they don't break it down any more than that. Now, just checking you can all hear me okay. Having a look at okay. Some good questions. Yeah, we'll get into this. Yeah, some good comments in the live chat I'll get into. Right. Let's keep going. Let's keep going through this. This is just blah, 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 going on. But basically repeating what they've already said above. This is the overview. And it's always written to try. By the way, I've linked to this document in the description below. So I recommend anyone go and download and have a good look for yourself. Experts' views, you get a local agent, but the trouble is that every month these commentaries are pretty samey. They're just like they try and make it sound better than it is always, no matter what's happening. So there you see that there's the 1.2%. So that's just that's the biggest July drop they've ever recorded. By the way, it's also interesting to note. Hang on a second. Rightmove sends out an email. Let me get it up here. Oh dear. Where is it? There it is. So it sends out an email to all of its registered buyers as well. And I've noticed something new. They've got a new strapline, which I find curious. Can you see that new strapline there? Their new strapline, it used to be find your happy. Rightmove, find your happy. And now, for reasons I do not understand, their new strapline is believe it. Believe it. When Charlie tells you not to believe it, believe it. Yeah. And that, let's just quickly run through that. No, that's not what I want to do. Price is key as sellers compete for buyers with big July price drop. But then look at the figures they headline in their email. Interestingly, new sellers up 4%, sales agreed up 5%, buyer demand up 6%, up. Look at that, how positive that looks. The big bold up in percentages. Oh, but asking prices have changed by minus 1.1%. Not dropped, not fallen, not reduced. They've changed by minus 1.1%. Can you see the overt manipulation of the information here? Find your ball and chain more like it. Yes, very funny. Miss Jane 782. Right, let's just go back to the main report here. That's the 5-year asking price trend. So you can see it's been pretty flat since 2022. It was sort of going up quite steeply, and then 2022, the asking prices have stayed pretty flat. Average, none of these are particularly insightful, but go and have a look. But then on the regional trends here, they've broken down all the regions. And what I find interesting is that where there's a negative number, they type the negative number in red, but they still color the map in green, pale green instead of dark green. So where are we? The Northeast, I think. Yeah, the Northeast is up, and that's in dark green. And the East Midlands is unchanged, and that's in dark green. Everything else is negative, red on the numbers, but pale green on the map. They won't make the map go red. No, we can't have that. That's much too negative. Much too negative. Affordability trends, yeah, there we are. There's nothing else outstanding here. The London borough stuff is just very noisy. It massively changes. It shows how noisy London is in terms of the boroughs. There aren't very big sample sizes there at all. We've got Camden has got the biggest year-on-year drop of 5% in a year. Westminster 5% in a year. Richmond upon Thames up 3.6% in the year, according to Rightmove. But this is based on 3-month rolling average, so it's different from all their other numbers. Okay, right. Let's get into some of your questions. Hang on. Right. Timo293. When is all this going to come to a head, Charlie? A lot are predicting October around the next budget time. So I don't think that today's Rightmove House Price Index report is a shock or a sign of anything sudden happening. It's of no surprise to me whatsoever, as agents are getting more and more desperate to actually tie up deals. They are trying to coax sellers down. So they're really working hard on their price reductions on their overpriced stock. And these are all new listings in the Rightmove index. So that means that they are, again, trying harder not to overvalue quite so badly, but they are still overvaluing pretty badly. I've been calling a slide, not a crash, for a long time. I think the second half of this year will see the slide start to get steeper. What I hope is that market activity sustains itself. And I don't want a crash for a number of reasons, right? A house price crash hurts most people and only briefly, temporarily benefits current waiting first-time buyers, right? And then as soon as you've bought your first home, after a crash, you now suddenly don't want a house price crash anymore. So it doesn't help. It kills market activity. It creates stagnation. It kills chains. It makes moving house harder, not easier. It causes a lot of people to lose their home because they end up in negative equity. It means a lot of people can't move. for the same reason. A lot of people cheer for a house price crash. I don't, and I never have, because it actually does a lot of damage. I'm not saying that there can't be one. There absolutely still could be one, depending on what continues to happen with the economy, what measures the Chancellor decides to impose or not. Today, I think I'm right in saying that she's come out and said there won't be a wealth tax. That's the first intelligent thing I've seen her do since she's been Chancellor. No matter what's happening in the economy, there is a non-stop supply of new first-time buyers who want to buy homes. There is also a smaller supply of first-time buyers who are buying homes, but only because it made good financial sense to do so when house prices were rising. And if they're not rising as much, those particular buyers might be going, I might just keep on renting a bit longer. And I have seen a few people commenting that and saying, in this particular market, the argument for buying is not as strong over renting, and therefore we might just sit tight. So that's why I think buyer demand is weaker than you would have expected it to be, given the fact that mortgage rates are down 0.8% compared to this time last year. The government and the ONS seem to be hastily covering up the real jobs data. And yet it's still the worst jobs data since 2008. There is this endless narrative from the government that everything's fine, we're doing so well, we're doing great, we're putting more money in your pockets further and faster, everything's cool, just relax, chill out, everything's great, Britain's a great place to be. They will not even acknowledge the fact that people are screaming because there are not enough pounds in their pocket to pay the bills, and the inflation still feels horribly high. I mean, inflation is going back up. So you've got joblessness, you've got inflation, you've got GDP, you've got a lot of things affecting the economy, or the comedy economy. It's a tragedy if it isn't a comedy. And a crash, or something people will look back on and call a crash, is certainly not impossible, but it's not a good idea. In the long run, the best thing to happen, which it kind of is happening, so there is good news here, right, is house prices are flatlining, nominally flatlining. Wages are still rising faster than house prices. Mortgage rates have come down a bit, and they're looking quite stable. I don't think they're going to come down much further. I fear they might tick back up, but I don't know. And as affordability improves, and as you get more people, there's a demographic uptick in number of people reaching end of life and selling homes as a result. That demographic is going to continue to improve. And I actually think that house prices at the higher end will continue a steeper slide. I think we might see house prices softening across the board with regional exceptions. I think the slide does continue for a couple of years at least, because there's no source of growth or stimulation for the economy from anywhere. Mortgage borrowers appear to be behaving a bit more sensibly than normal, and realizing that overpaying is a silly idea, overstretching yourself is a silly idea. Having said that, though, I know of some first-hand anecdotes where there are buyers. I had someone commenting just this morning saying, my mum is overpaying for a new home, and I can't stop her, and I want to stop her. It's a terrible mistake. So there are people overpaying, and there will be people overpaying as the market continues to slide. But when is it going to come to a head? I am not expecting a major where everything comes to a head. I'm expecting the slide to continue. I'm hoping it doesn't hurt transaction volumes. I'm hoping that actually transaction volumes begin to pick up on the back of improving affordability, and that we have, I'm being uncharacteristically optimistic about this, aren't I? Balanced. That's what it is. That's what I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be balanced. Barry Brown says, long time no see, Moving with Charlie. I know of at least 4 people moving who are selling and are struggling for offers or accepting offers 10% lower than what they purchased for in the last 5 years. Yeah, I'm afraid that's quite a common occurrence, I think. Do we have any more questions? Miss Jane 782 says, the news stories around the economy and housing market are shifting. The market psychology is changing. I sense that. I agree with that. I think you're right. It'll be interesting to see what the average price does when the... Yeah, that's true. Did you guys see there's a £250 million house that's gone on the market in London? Norwegian billionaire is 81 years old. He decided to sell up and get out of England. And he's the price mentioned in the story is £250 million. I don't think it's going to go for that. Martin Turner says, Help to Buy on the way will be in the autumn budget. I'm assuming this is just your opinion. I hope that's not the case. I fear it might happen in some way, shape, or form. And if it does, it will be artificially inflating house prices again. And I hope that all of the people who are in negative equity as a result of the last Help to Buy will come out loudly and say, no, it's a terrible idea. So when Gordon, what's his name? I can see his face. That was that conservative chant, George Osborne. When he brought in Help to Buy, he's subsequently done interviews where he's gone, yeah, it wasn't a great idea. Simon Bradbury. Hello, Simon. Simon is a very reputable estate agent in St Neots in Cambridgeshire. Genuinely a great agent. Asks, as a matter of interest, how would you define a crash? I don't know if I have a definition for it, Simon. It tends to be the newspapers that define a crash in hindsight. It never tends to get called as it's happening because of the delays in the reporting. I mean, there are certain local markets that have crashed, and no one seems to dispute the fact. I mean, in London, there are properties like Northwest London, detached houses down 37%. That's a good crash. 20% in the last 12 months, 37% since the peak. No one's disputing. Yeah, those have crashed. There are Mayfair prices that are down 60%. That's a crash. That's a proper crash. But it's not a technical or official definition, is it? It's just a colloquialism. So I think I mean, a crash is bad news. It's bad news all around. I hope there isn't one. Let's see. Billy Big Calls says, offered on a flat 6 months ago. Higher offer from another buyer, accepted. Flat now back on the market at a higher price. Speak to agent or just let the vendor get real first. Always make your offer. Always make your offer. So I'd go back in there and say, yep, there's my offer again. Don't offer more than your maximum comfortable price, but always make your offer. Square Eyes says it's a shit show. I think good luck to everyone. It's looking bad. Don't overpay. Job market is dire and getting worse. Stay away from retirement homes. Save yourself. Hi, Naida. Carlos says, is this news, the Rightmove July big price drop, more significant given the so-called summer bounce we were meant to be having? There's always meant to be a bounce, isn't there? There's a spring bounce, and then there's a summer bounce, and then there's an autumn bounce, and then there's a New Year bounce. Then there's the Boxing Day bounce, isn't there? There's bounce, 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 bounce. It's very, very boring how it gets repeated. I think the news is significant. It's definitely significant. I think a lot of people are already feeling it, and that news has kind of confirmed it. And I think the two bigger headlines than the July big price drop are, number one, that the Rightmove average house price is unchanged from this time last year, okay, 300 quid different, like 0.1% up. And number two, average first-time buyer prices are down very slightly on this time last year. That was a surprise to me. I'm just looking for some other questions here. Jamie boy, what are you talking about? 30 to 40% drop on what? Wow. Square Eye says, my flat and my mum's have gone down 20%. Management fees have gone up 30% plus annual balancing charge about 1k each. Make your own mind up. The stock market is ropey as hell. Don't know where to hide currently. Excuse me. A lot of people don't know where to put their money at the moment. A lot of people saying, just be happy to be keeping up with inflation, but even that's difficult. Principal Mole says, all flats in North London are going over asking price. It's odd. Red hot market. Yes, I'm aware of this. It is true. And in fact, I've got Otter Properties page up here. And let's just have a look at the North London market. Because the flats are unchanged from a year ago, but terraced houses are down 10%, semis are down 4%, and detached houses are down 12% in North London postcodes. I think what's happening in North London is a big downsizing. And so you've got a pincer movement of downsizers selling up their detached and semi-detached houses, looking for terraced and flats. And you've also got first-time buyers buying flats too. And I think that's why flats in North London are going. Simon Bradbury again asks, do you expect to see an increase in down valuations from surveyors? A mortgage valuation, not a survey, is one of the few safety valves protecting buyers from overpaying. Well, Simon, you'd think so, but I've been helping someone in this situation who offered 300,000. It ended up offering 300,000 to secure it because actually he was buying it from Connells. Connells wouldn't put their offer forward, sold it to someone else that got an in-house mortgage. This buyer went round directly to the seller, says, I'll give you 300 grand. The seller went, done, deal. Agent was furious, couldn't do anything about it. But buyer's lender's valuer came around and went, no, 265, not 300. And the buyer's like, I don't care. I have to own this flat. I'm going to borrow the extra money and pay a larger deposit, whatever it means. You're right. A down valuation. Am I expecting them? I mean, I can't think of a particular reason why there would be an increase in down valuations. I think buyers are generally speaking getting more and more cautious. Could there be an increase in down valuations? Yes, there could. There could, and it wouldn't surprise me if there were. But I don't really know enough about the market for down valuations, how much is happening. But basically, for everyone watching, when a lender down values a property, what they're saying is, we don't think we get our money back at the price you want to pay. This is the price we think is a safe value for that property. And if you are a buyer and you have your offer accepted, and then the lender comes along and goes, no, that's too much money. It's amazing how many first-time buyers' reactions are, oh my God, but what do I do? I've got to find the extra money to put a bigger deposit. No, they're telling you that you're overpaying and you should renegotiate, honestly. 360 Picture UK says, the Connells doc didn't kick up the stink I thought it would. Well, no, we're British. We just bend over and take it in this country. Yeah, we complain on social media. We don't actually do anything about it. That's what's going to happen. Andy says, my partner and I have just sold our properties and ready to buy a house / move in together. Struggling to make a decision on whether to rent or buy. I think there are a lot of people in a similar situation, Andy, and this is what I would do if I were in your shoes as you describe it, right? I've sold my place, my new partner sold her place, and we're moving in together, and we're not sure. First of all, I would say never buy if you're not sure. Only buy because you are sure. Now, that doesn't mean don't buy. What I would do is I would rent somewhere. You're only going to be committed to a maximum of 6 months, provided you don't do a longer fixed term and the renter's rights bill comes in next year. So minimum short tenancy, 6 months, right? I'd rent somewhere. It's going to take you that long to find somewhere to have an offer accepted and to get to completion. So don't worry about being stuck in rental for long, because you'll be fine. Rent somewhere where you want to live. Try and choose somewhere that if you end up being there longer than you thought, that's okay. Don't compromise on the quality of where you want to live. Too many people make that mistake, right? Rent somewhere that you're going to enjoy living. Ask the landlord whether or not they have any plans to sell in the near future, and try and avoid the ones that do. Because you never know what's going to happen, right? You might move in there, rent, and be really glad you did, and then the market might crap out and you might decide, right, we're not going to buy for a few years, we're going to stay where we are. You then don't want a landlord selling up if that happens, and landlords are selling up. Not all of them, but a lot of them. But the other thing that I would do is I would have everything ready to pounce if a bargain dream home came along. Now, I don't know what your budget is. I don't know where you're looking. I don't know what kind of home you're looking for. But in this market, there is an opportunity in this market that rarely happens when prices are going up, which is that there are, if you know how to find them, and if you're patient, and if you're persistent, and if you're prepared, the 3 Ps, and you're out there viewing, there are bargains to be had in this market, right? Because a lot of people are experiencing forced sales. So I would make sure you've got everything ready to pounce. I would watch the market closely. I would go and view anything that you think you'd be interested in buying. In particular, I would go and look at stuff that might be priced outside my budget, but it's been on the market a long time and looking a little bit dusty up on that shelf. That's where you might find bargains, and that's where you can ending up buying a home that was nicer than you imagined you'd get, for less than you thought you'd have to pay, and you're quids in, you're happy, you've got a dream home, it's your forever home, Bob's your uncle. That's what I would do in the situation that you described. Go out and look with everything ready to pull the trigger if you find the right place, because when you find that place that's a bargain and you offer a disappointing price to them, if you don't have everything ready to move straight away, they're going to go, you're just a time waster, you're just a tire kicker. But if you say, here's my offer, and I know it's disappointing low, but we could exchange in 2 weeks, that's when you get the bargains. That's how the professional property investors do it, right? And like I had James Gerard on the channel a few weeks ago, he described that he makes 20 offers for every one that gets accepted. And when they do get accepted, they can exchange within 1 or 2 days, because he's just ready to move if the seller is also ready to exchange. Hi, Bengal Tiger. Sarah Jackson, a friend trying to sell in Warwick, dropped the price from 425 to 375, still no views. Now, that's sadly unsurprising, because many agents, and I'm conscious that I've got Simon Bradbury watching me, and I hope he'll agree with this, many agents, not all of them, but many of them are grossly overvaluing. And I'm talking 25 to 30%, right? And so this property may well be a £325,000 property. Okay. And so at 375, it still looks like you're dropping your price, but you're still way out of the mark. Right. If you've got no viewings, that's what's wrong. I mean, there may be other problems with the property as well, the marketing, the agent, whatever else. But assuming that the marketing, the agent, the photography is okay, it's just, and this is the brutal reality that victims of overvaluing are facing up and down the country. By the way, to any seller who feels they were deliberately misled by their agent, and the agent won their trust and won your business because they said, we can definitely get you this fantastic price, you have recourse with the property ombudsman, right? There is a very, very clear paragraph in the Code of Practice. I think it's paragraph 9 of the Property Ombudsman Residential Estate Agent Code of Practice, which explains what they must do when giving you a market appraisal, and that they must also keep a record of the comparables that they used to come up with the valuation on your property. And if you make a complaint against your agent for overvaluing, it will help stop it happening so much. You may get a compensation, it won't be very much, but it is off-putting for agents if people start saying, you overvalue my home, you make me miss the market, you make me lose money because I'm going to sell for even less, then I'm going to make a formal complaint. Wow, square eyes. I hope this is useful to someone. I just paid off a mortgage on a property I bought in 2007. I'd struggle to sell it for what I paid for it then today. Wow. Simon again, having everything ready is great advice. Thanks, Simon. Mortgage agreed in principle, documents and conveyancer details, etc. Absolutely. Be prepared, be patient, be persistent, and you'll get those bargains. Right. Guys, I'm going to call it there. I hope that was helpful. If you are new here, welcome. Thank you very much. Got a lot of new followers on all the platforms. It's great to see you. Great to have you here. I hope you'll find my stuff helpful. If you look in the link below, you'll find a link to my link tree, and you want to look for, if you're new here, my 10 golden rules for home buyers and my 10 golden rules for home sellers. Just search Charlie's 10 golden rules for buyers or for sellers, whichever one you are. Each one of those is about a 20-minute video, and it's the most densely compacted amount of advice I can offer you in the shortest possible time to get you started. Otherwise, also, everyone who's new here, and thank you to those of you who have been signing up in quite large numbers, make sure you don't miss out on my updates on the market. I do a 5 Fact Friday video and or newsletter every Friday. And subscribers to the newsletter get it first, mhwc.co.uk/newsletter. It also links to videos from the week that you may have missed. So if you aren't getting that and you are in the market for moving, I recommend you put your name, put your email address down for that. Last but not least, I think the people I'm most worried about right now is sellers who need to sell, want to sell, and are terrified, and they've been on the market for a while, they've dropped their price a bit, they've been taken in by an overvaluing agent, they've signed a long-term agency agreement, and they're just chasing the market down. It's all going bad. If you are a new seller and you haven't yet brought your house to the market, please go and watch that video, the 10 golden rules for home sellers. Please, please, please. It works. I've had lots of people telling me, follow your rules. It worked. Got sold really quickly, multiple offers over asking price. Please, if you're a first timer, number one golden rule, do not, I repeat, do not sign an estate agent's contract that locks you in for more than about 8 or maximum 12 weeks. And if an agent offers you a contract of terms to sign that does have a longer thing than that, say, are you expecting to take that long to sell my house? You should not countenance these 20-week or 26-week, 6-month contracts where you're stuck there with no viewings and you can't change agent. And if you're a seller watching this and you're in that situation and you think the agent overvalued your home, you should say to the agent, let me out of my contract, I want to change agents. And if you don't, I'm going to complain to the ombudsman and make a complaint about you overvaluing my home, right? Estate agents may or may not do lots of things. The one thing all estate agents will do is negotiate. They negotiate all day, every day. They will do it. They're very, very good at pretending that they won't do it, but they will do it. And if you have valid grounds and they've let you down, you just say to them, let me out of this contract. But don't overprice. Choose your agent like your future depends on it, because it does. Get your conveyancer lined up before your agent. right? You will sell faster, you'll get more buyers, and your agent will be very happy to work for you at a lower fee if you've already got your conveyancer lined up. But most of all, please just don't be in denial about what's happening with house prices. Thanks very much, guys. Have a great one. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.